For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. Less than a week before the U.S. is to default on its debts and still no deal has been reached to lift the government's borrowing power. President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy are narrowing in on a 2-year budget deal. They remain deadlocked over Republican demand to impose stiffer work requirements on people who receive government food, cash assistance, and health care aid, some of the most vulnerable Americans. Democrats Thursday outlined the impacts on a default. Christopher Martinez reports.
Democratic House members who are military veterans, making the point that the Republican debt and budget plan would cut services for vets. Mike Thompson is a Democrat from California.
This is a manufactured crisis that's going to play hard on veterans. Veterans VA appointments are going to be canceled because of this. There's 900,000 veterans who depend upon care providers. Those care providers aren't going to receive any pay if we go over this fiscal cliff.
The scuttlebutt on Capitol Hill says the areas of disagreement have narrowed to a few issues. For example, a $70 billion difference over budget cuts. There's also talk of House Democrats joining some number of Republicans to pass a deal. But that is not welcome news to some more conservative Republicans.
Anybody making a deal right now? $4 trillion? Are you out of your frigging mind?
Republican Chip Roy of Texas is a member of the House Freedom Caucus.
Hold the damn line!
I'm Christopher Martinez.
An Indiana board has fined an Indianapolis doctor after ruling she violated patient privacy laws by talking publicly about providing an abortion to a 10-year-old rape victim from neighboring Ohio. The state medical licensing board fined Dr. Caitlin Bernard $3,000 for publicly speaking to a newspaper reporter about the girl's treatment days after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last summer. Board members rejected a request from the Attorney General's office to suspend the doctor's license. The Supreme Court has weakened protections for more than half the wetlands in the U.S., some 45 million acres of them. A 5-4 majority ruling expands the ability of farmers, home builders, and other developers to dig up or fill wetlands near rivers, lakes, and streams. It also weakens the Clean Water Act, a bedrock environmental law. Catherine Carley reports.
The court said wetlands can only be regulated under the Clean Water Act if they have a continuous surface connection to larger regulated bodies of water. The ruling limits the Biden administration's efforts to restore protections to millions of acres of wetlands. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says the decision takes the country backwards.
It will jeopardize the sources of clean drinking water for farmers, businesses, and millions of Americans. Look, the Clean Water Act is the reason why America's lakes today are swimmable, why we can fish in our streams and rivers, and why safe drinking water comes out of our taps.
I'm Catherine Carley for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
Conservation groups are blasting the Supreme Court's decision. Suzanne Potter has more.
Conservation groups say the ruling puts up to 80% of U.S. wetlands at risk for pollution and development, with ephemeral streams and headwaters in western states at particular risk. Alex Funk with the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership predicts the ruling will have widespread negative consequences.
This is going to put major setbacks on our ability to adapt to climate change, respond to extreme weather events. So anyone that hunts, fishes, or recreates, there was a big hit to that from the court.
I'm Suzanne Potter.
Authorities say Russia's southern Belgorod region that borders Ukraine has come under attack from Ukrainian artillery fire. It comes hours after 2 drones struck a Russian city in a region next to the annexed Crimea Peninsula. The Kremlin forces, meanwhile, struck a clinic in Dnipro today, killing 2 and wounding another 23, including 2 children. Ukrainian officials also said a Russian S-300 missile hit a dam in the Karlivka district of Ukraine's eastern Donetsk province. That placed nearby settlements under threat of severe flooding. Meanwhile, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says Western allies will train Ukrainian fighter pilots on the F-16 fighter jets. Netherlands and Denmark will spearhead that training. Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes was sentenced to 18 years in prison for seditious conspiracy and other charges related to the deadly January 6 attack Thursday. It's the harshest prison sentence stemming from the Capitol siege. Prosecutors have filed more than 1,000 criminal cases out of the January 6 Capitol attack. A judge is poised to sentence 2 other members of the Oath Keepers, Jessica Watkins and Kenneth Harrelson, today. Amnesty International is accusing Peru's government of human rights violations during protests against the ousting and jailing of President Pedro Castillo, including extrajudicial killings. Agnes Calamard is Amnesty International's Secretary General.
We have documented the killing of 20 people, and those killings were, in our opinion, deliberate and intentional. That means that these individuals were the victims of extrajudicial executions.
Victims and families are calling for reparations. I'm Christina Onestad reporting for Pacifica Radio.